Councillor McCabe and Councillor Rankin. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And then I have a recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive for information report EDO 2023-009 Council Orientation Community Economic Development 101. And I'll have Councillor Hearn and Councillor McCabe move that motion. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I'm just gonna take just a minute here as we've got the council chambers filling up and it's just a little bit loud. So I'm just gonna take just a minute.
It's like church, if you get here late.
Why you don't take up a collection?
They do that quarterly on taxes. Everybody there? Yes, yeah.
So welcome, everyone. The council meeting is in process. Welcome, everyone. The council meeting is in process and we will get to you folks shortly. So just coming out of closed, I have another recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North approve the closed meeting minutes of April the 3rd, 2023 council meeting. Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor McCabe. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. This evening, we have a very special presentation tonight, and I'm honored to be able to do that tonight. So the presentation is on behalf of the 85th anniversary of the Mount Forest Lions Club. So I have a proclamation here that the Mount Forest Lions Club 85th anniversary proclamation, whereas the Mount Forest Lions Club is a member of the Lions Club International with 1.4 million members in 50,000 clubs in more than 200 countries and geographical areas. And whereas the motto of the Lions Club International is "We Serve," and the Mount Forest Lions Club is a valuable service club in our community. And whereas the Mount Forest Lions Club was established in 1938, it's in celebrating 85 years of service and is comprised of volunteers who dedicate their time to the betterment of our communities and aiding those in need. And whereas the Mount Forest Lions Club participate in a number of annual community events and host the annual Mount Forest Christmas Parade. And whereas the Mount Forest Lions Club has supported various local charities, causes, including cancer patient services, now therefore I, Sherry Burke, acting mayor of the Township of Wellington North, do proclaim the month of May 2023 as Mount Forest Lions Club Month in Wellington North, proclaimed and adopted this 17th day of April 2023. So for many of you that are zooming in tonight, you can't see all of the proud faces that I see sitting here in the council chambers tonight. And on behalf of myself and council and Mayor Lennox, who is not able to be here with us tonight, I thank all of you folks and all of the folks from your club that weren't able to attend tonight. Much gratitude and thanks on behalf of Wellington North. So at this time, I'd ask President George if he would like to say a few words.
Yeah, I wasn't get prepared to say anything, but oh, okay. What did you mean?
Zoom meeting, they can only hear you if you speak into the microphone.
Okay, you give me a microphone, it could be for hours. There you go. Okay. Anyway, on behalf of the Mount Forest Lions Club, I'd like to thank council for proclaiming the month of May, the Mount Forest Lions Club month. I've only been in Mount Forest now for this coming up 5 years, and I've been with this. There's a few of us here tonight, but this is an amazing group of individuals that serve not only Mount Forest but the community around Mount Forest as well. So again, I invite everybody that's on Zoom as well to on May the 1st, we're going to be doing a flag raising at the Archives building in downtown Mount Forest. So I invite anybody that wants to join us there to please join us. And that'll be at noon, and then the museum itself will be open for anyone that wants to come in and see what the Mount Forest Lions Club has been doing for the last 85 years. So again, thank you very much, council. Appreciate it. And just want to thank my fellow Lions members here for all the support that they've given me for the last year, but also all the past presence within the community. So you got cut off already. Anyway, thank you very much. No, okay, we're good. Okay.
No.
Thank you.
So George, just before you sit down, if I could have you come up to the front here, we have a certificate of
Well,
recognition.
if it's okay, we have members here that I brought that are 40 years
It-
plus members.
Whoever you'd like to come up and,
Oh, yeah.
and accept this.
And then I'll probably email it to you so you can let me know who's in the picture and
Okay.
post it on our social media.
Yep, just up here. Karen, you tell them where you'd like them to be, just up in there.
Ladies, come on in.
You're the young one.
Come on. Don't, come on now. Anybody that should- These guys are special, but we're more special. No.
Dennis.
Oh.
Right.
And then after Dennis is
Dennis
also-
Wilson, yes, that would be great.
Well, Nick, maybe we get some light and focus. There's some information about all the, Appreciate it.
How are you doing, huh?
Good, Steve.
Not too bad.
Good, do it.
You going right in?
All right.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you guys can stay if you want. It might keep snowing, it'll be bad when we leave. Yeah, you wouldn't know it was 27 degrees yesterday, that's crazy.
I was busy last week doing deck work at the back of the house and in like a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And just.
Twice in one
Or-
day.
or now, yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure I got burnt yesterday. Drive home safely. Congratulations.
So hopefully these gravel roads will give you.
Well, they're just about to leave.
Oh, yeah. But you take a current one. Thanks. Little recent, yeah.
It's on or not?
Yeah.
Marcus, I've just tried to move you in as a presenter, so you'll have to accept and promote to panelist.
Standing behind the door.
Okay, for you folks on Zoom, you probably seen a lot of commotion going on here. We just presented a certificate to the Lions Club. So on the agenda next is a deputation from Marcus Galati, Cassia Developments Arthur Inc., request for sewage allocation to the North Arthur Development. Marcus?
So just before you start, Marcus, I'm the clerk, Township of Wellington North. I'd just like to remind everyone that deputations are limited to 10 minutes. You speak to your application and it's not a question and answer. We're here to get the information from you that you want to present.
That's great. Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate the introduction, and good to see everybody. And it's been a while since we've been in front of you, but appreciate your time this evening. And if you don't mind, I'll jump right into the presentation. I don't have any formal slides for you, but I think we did submit a pretty detailed cover letter along with our request for allocation. I guess I wanted to start with a little bit of an introduction and some context. As you're well aware, we're probably more familiar with Cassia with respect to our Preston Street development, which is currently ongoing. We've kind of blitzed through the service and construction of that site and are well into housing construction. So we're very excited for that to be coming to fruition this spring. And in the time period that we were working through the construction of that site, we were presented with an opportunity to make another investment in the Arthur community. And we took that opportunity based on the relationships that we've built with your staff as well as your council, and kind of the warm welcome we've received in your town, and that being the North Arthur development that's currently in front of you tonight. And with that, just to jump into the context of the application, because I think there was a little bit of gaps in the report from staff. The application was received well over, I'd say 14 months ago. It was for an official plan amendment as well as a zoning application. Both applications were deemed complete. However, it was deemed at that time that we should wait to see how the MCR process or the province unfolded with respect to the application, because it was for an employment conversion. So the applications were deemed complete. They were processed, they were circulated for comment, and they were put on, we should say they were put on the back burner to let the province and the county play out the process that generally unfolded last Tuesday. And what happened last Tuesday was, I would say, something that removed an element of complexity from the application, because the application or the lands were taken out of the employment designation and redesignated to a designated greenfield designation by the province. So what that does is it really eliminates an element of, or a layer of complexity from our application, turning it from an employment conversion simply to a redesignation under the official plan. And that's something that we plan to do or work through over the next few months with staff. In addition to that, the application benefits from existing servicing, as well as providing for additional capital or infrastructure upgrades, such as Macaulay Road. And I'm not sure if I'm able to share my screen and throw the plan up for you if you have it in front of you, but
Okay, yeah. So Marcus, did you want to speak to that report?
Yeah, I will speak to that report as we go. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Okay,
Just wanted to keep the plan in front of you. So the staff report that was presented for sewage allocation generally arrived at the conclusion this application was premature for the allocation request. But in many regards, it's similar to the application from Vet Homes, for example, that's being approved for allocation, in that we have a complete application. We didn't have a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act, but we actually had an informal neighborhood meeting with residents in the area about 8 months ago. So we met with residents. I can't remember, Councillor McCabe, if you were on that meeting or not, but I think we made it available to you. And we did receive some feedback from the residents in the area. We presented the plan that's currently on my screen now. Did gather some feedback, but again, we weren't able to move to the statutory process because of the county's position on the application. So with that said, I'm here this evening really requesting that council or staff reconsider a request from us for the balance of the allocation that's currently available per staff's report. So staff's report currently allocates 35 units to the Vet Home application, which again is in a very similar position to this application based on the planning process, and allocate the 20 units that are left available per staff's report to this development. And the reason for that is between April of this year and April of next year, I think, or I believe that a lot of things will happen. This application will advance to a later stage. We'll get to a draft approval, I believe, now that the complexity of the employment designation has been removed, and be in a position that we're able to advance to detailed engineering and potentially servicing, potentially by the end of this year. And for that to happen, again, I think I've had this discussions with many of you. There needs to be some form of element of certainty with respect to what can proceed and what cannot proceed. And the Vet Homes application that's on your report is a perfect example of that. For example, if Cache was not able to proceed with the site that they're currently building on Preston Street, Vet Homes would be in a position where they were not able to proceed at all. Because what the Cache application on Preston Street facilitated was, one, the swim pond that was able to accommodate them from a stormwater management and servicing perspective, as well as the sanitary connection along Adelaide. And that only happened because we were able to receive the allocation we were requesting at the 2 meetings that we requested it at for the development to proceed. So what I'm asking for this evening is really step 1 in the development process of this application, being the 20 units of allocation that are left available after the Vet Homes application. And
Marcus,
again, yeah.
if I can just interrupt you for a minute, I just ask that you stick to the North Arthur development
Sure.
and comments with regards to your development and Cache. Thank you.
Sure. So I think, again, with context, it all leads back to the same conclusion. So again, I'm requesting that those 20 units be considered this evening. And again, Cache is here, to form a partnership with the town, work with staff. We've been working with the community leaders in the town as well. I know the Arthur Public Schools on the agenda for a request for a donation. We've been assisting them through their playground process as well, in the form of donations. And we really want to look to form another relationship with the township and work well for many years to come. So that's the request that I'm making this evening is for a consideration to be made for those available 20 units after the Vet Home application.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Does council have any questions or comments for Marcus at this time?
I don't have any. Excuse me, I don't have any.
I don't have any.
Thank you. Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Marcus, for your presentation. And I'm sure that there may be some discussion with that later on in the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to move on to adoption of minutes of council and public meetings, the regular meeting of council on April the 3rd, 2023, the special meeting of council April 11th, 2023, and the recommendation is that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on April 3rd, 2023, and the special meeting of council held on April 11th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. Can I have a mover? Councillor McCabe, seconder, Councillor Rankin. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Business arising from previous meetings of council. There's none on the agenda, which brings us to items for consideration. Any items that anybody would like to have pulled out for further discussion?
Go ahead, Penny.
Councillor Rankin,
Just 3A,
3A.
please. Thank you.
3A.
I'm sorry, Penny, is that the one that you declared the interest in? Okay, we'll pull that one too, so it'll be voted on separately.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McCabe,
Thank you. And through you, I'd like to pull 1A II, the decommissioning of the Lions Pool.
okay, thank you.
3B, grants and donations.
Okay,
And 5A, sewer allotments.
all right.
And finally, 6D with the excuse me, connecting link announcement.
Okay, thank you very much. That covers off my list. Anything for you, Councillor Hearn?
No, that covers mine too. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
All right, thank you so much. So and we also need to pull 2A. I have an indirect pecuniary interest. So at that time, Councillor Hearn, I will hand the meeting over to you. So we're going to adopt all of the items that have not been pulled out for separate discussion. So I'll have Councillor Hearn move that and Councillor Rankin second that. That adoption of all items not requiring separate discussion, that all items listed under items for consideration on April the 17th, 2023, a council agenda with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion be approved and the recommendations therein adopted. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So that brings us to our first item. 1A on the Parks and Leisure Committee. That's the resolution. Okay. So the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North, as recommended by the Recreation Parks and Leisure Committee, directs staff to proceed with the decommissioning of the Lions Roy Grant Pool and rehabilitation of the property. And further, that council direct staff to seek pricing for the decommissioning and rehabilitation of the property. And can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Hearn. And with that, I'll open the discussion.
Sure.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. And through you, Councillor Burke. Yeah, I thought I would pull this. It's not a heavy heart, but I guess it's a step in the right direction for the pool in Mount Forest. I guess it's more cathartic than anything. And I was talking to my mother the other day, and she remembers when I had went up and took swimming lessons there, and that's many, many moons ago. So sad to see a landmark like that go, but I know decommissioning in this and getting a price to decommission it is a step in the right direction for the next steps that we have to take towards the Mount Forest pool.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No, I agree, especially after the presentation that we had here this evening. It sort of seems like the end of an era, but moving forward, we will have a nice new facility that the Lions Club will contribute and be a part of that as well. So thank you for bringing that forward. So I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I'm going to pass the chair over to Councillor Hearn for the next item.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Just want to double check. Yeah, okay. Okay, so I have a staff recommendation in front of you. And it's a long one for me. That Council of the Township of Wellington North received DC Report 2023-13, being a report on revised consent application easement B52-22, known as Part Lot 6, east of Main Street Town's plan of Mount Forest in the town of Mount Forest. And further, that the Council of the Township of Wellington North supports consent application B5222 as presented with the following conditions. That the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, included but not limited to taxes paid in full, a fee of $130 for township clearance letter of conditions, or whatever fee is applicable at the time of clearance under the municipal fees and charges bylaw, which the Township of Wellington North may deem to be necessary at the time of issuance of the certificate of consent for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, and that the owner enters into a development agreement with the Township of Wellington North for the purpose of satisfying all the requirements of the township, financial, construct, and otherwise, including but not limited to the provision of full road restoration, granular base, asphalt, and curb of any damaged or modified area at the proposed entrance and exit location with municipal right-of-way, signage posted at entrance and exit to indicate one-way traffic flow, no vehicle parking within 1.5 meters of the property line, surface treatment of the access easement to be installed to prevent erosion and the escape of dust and loose particles, line painting and lot grading to the satisfaction of the township at the sole expense of the owner. And further, that council authorizes the development clerk to file with the Secretary Treasurer of the Planning and Land Division Committee at the County of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of same. So seeing that, do I have a mover and a seconder?
Yeah, I can move it.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe and Councillor Rankin. And now I will open it to council for any discussion.
I have none.
I have none.
And I don't have any either. So seeing that, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that's carried. I'll turn it back over to Councillor Burke.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. The next item is 3A, Economic Development Report EDO 2003-010 Community Improvement Program. The recommendation reads that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive EDO or report EDO 2023-010 on the Community Improvement Program, and further that council approves a facade improvement grant of up to $1,200 to the Imagination Space at 257 Main Street South in Mount Forest. And further that council approves a facade improvement grant of up to $2,500 to the Tipsy Fox Pub and Grill at 187 Main Street South in Mount Forest. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Counselor Rankin, seconded by Counselor Hearn. Any questions, comments on that recommendation? Counselor Rankin.
Through you, Acting Mayor Burke, to Dale. I have a question mainly more than a real concern, I guess. But as it stands now, when you look at the building, you can still see part of the heritage look of the building with the white building and the black shutters. And it looks as though it's being covered in black. I don't know, is that going to be the whole building that they're going to continue that on? Are they going to leave anything of a heritage look to it?
Through you, Acting Mayor Burke, I may call on my colleague Darren to answer that. Yeah, thanks, Darren.
Yep, so the way it's shown in that picture is the way that it's proposed to look. The exterior of the building is pretty much complete now. We've issued their permit for their sign, so they just, I think, need to put the lettering on. So what you see in the picture will be the final product.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Darren.
you.
Thanks, Darren.
Any other questions or comments with regard to that? No? So I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So the next recommendation is the report EDO 2023-011 Grants and Donations Community Development Program. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive EDO report 2023-011 being a report on the Grants and Donations Community Development Program, and further that council, in recognition of the important role that not-for-profit organizations and community groups play in our municipality, improve the recommendation to advance $50,534.13 in the following in the grants to the following organizations. I'm not going to read off the list. The list is in your package. But if there are specific questions, I see Dale's ready to answer some questions here. If there are specific questions,
We pulled that one because Penny had declared.
Oh, yes.
So if there may not be discussion, we just needed to do that separately so she could.
Okay.
introduce herself.
Okay,
Comment if you don't mind.
yes.
I don't know if we've moved it though.
Oh, yes. So moved by Counselor Hearn and seconded by Counselor McCabe.
Great, thank you. And I just wanted to have this one pulled because I think it is, I know it's International Volunteer Week. And we have our volunteer week going on in Arthur later on this week. So with that focus, I think it's important that we support our local service clubs, our church organizations, the legions, our healthcare recruitment. And it's an interesting one, but it's Kenilworth Public School as well. I really do want to support this one as Kenilworth is growing, and like other towns and hamlets in Wellington North, Con, Arthur, and Mount Forest, our rec committee supports playgrounds and everything like that for those urban areas and in Con. And I see this as a great opportunity to get behind the playground that they want to replace in Kenilworth, and want to support that because as the new families move in and have families of their own, they'll have access to the schoolyard, and then obviously the new playground, and it won't just be a school amenity, it'll be a community amenity. So I'm all in favor for all of the grants and donations that are put forth in the staff report, Dale, and thanks for organizing this and being the conduit for all the volunteers and service groups that make our community as good as it is and makes it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor McCabe. Any other questions or comments with regards to grants and donations? Counselor Hearn.
Yes, so I gather that staff is looking for recommendations on the additional six that are brought forward there. And Councilor McCabe did mention Kenilworth Public School, and I do tend to agree with that. And that equipment is very old. It's the same equipment that Wyatt used when he was at Kenilworth Public School. And when I lived in downtown Kenilworth, it was the community recreation space. Everyone went there after school. So I do agree with Councillor McCabe's comments on that one. So I'm fully supportive of supporting the playground at Kenilworth Public School.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just going to add that I missed a part of that recommendation, so I hope the mover and seconder will also support the further piece that I missed, and further that council provide direction to staff in regard to the 6 applications outlined below that require council review and discussion. So we've had some of that discussion. If there's not going to be anybody else that's going to speak, I'd like to just put my 2 cents in. And that is that I would like us to be able to support the Arthur Public School and the Kenilworth Public School. I'm not necessarily sure that I'm comfortable with the asks, but I do think it's important that the students at both schools have an opportunity to play and be active during their break times. And I'm just wondering if we can somehow get a staff report. I mean, specifically, I'm looking at the Kenilworth Public School with all of the development, as Councillor McCabe had suggested, that maybe there's something we can work on with parkland dedication through that development and the development charges. So I would be open to asking for an additional staff report for those 2 items, and perhaps maybe offering some support through some grant applications that maybe would be able to help them out with, particularly if they're looking for more accessible pieces like they did a few years ago at Victoria Cross in Mount Forest. So I just sort of throw that out there to my other council colleagues and see how they feel about moving forward in that way.
So Councillor Burke, through you, I think that's a good next step. If councils, so what I think I'm hearing from council is support to the first list that comes up to the 50,534.13. We can vote on that later. And then I'm also hearing support from council to try to do something for both the Arthur Public School and the Kenilworth Public School. And I think the request for staff to come back with another report, now that we have that direction that council would like to move with those 2, then we can come back to council at a later date with a little bit more information around, perhaps funding opportunities. Where might we be able to provide some funding? My own perspective would be, I think we would want to try to treat them equally. So I know what they've submitted is different, but that's really just what the individual groups submitted on the grant application. So I would think that our staff recommendation that comes back might be to treat them both equally for a certain amount, but we can certainly do that if that's council's direction.
Okay. And I'm going to put that out to council. How do the rest of council members feel about that? Councillor Hearn?
Yes, I can be agreeable to that as long as it doesn't drop off the radar. But it does lead me to kind of a second question. Doesn't need to be necessarily pertaining to that report, but as I was sitting here asking questions about the 2 schools, it dawned on me that we do get presentations from county council from time to time. I would love to have Robin Ross come in and have a presentation at some point in time about her role as a school trustee within Wellington North.
Thank you, Councillor. And I think that's a great point. And maybe we can extend the the invitation to Robin. Just being as the Upper Grand School Board is deeming these playgrounds inusable because of they've exceeded their life expectations. When you do that, there needs to be some kind of plan, I think. So I think that's a really good point. So we'll use that, we'll put that towards part of the staff direction. Any other questions or comments before we move forward?
What about the other?
Oh, is there any support for the other four on the list? Are we happy with?
I'm
supporting-
actually, sorry,
Go ahead.
through you, Councillor Burke. I'm actually all right with the 6 applications that have been in the amount of the request. So I'm all right with things as I see it with the with the 50,000 and then the about 25 grand for the last 6.
So you're okay to approve everything that staff has put out?
Yep. But I don't know how that leads us to,
Well,
we're
yeah.
down to a skeleton crew now, kind of.
Yeah.
Through you, Acting Mayor Burke. So the Community Development Fund has $40,000 in it. That's what
Mhm.
council have approved for grants and donations. We also agreed that we would take 10,000 out of the BR&E implementation fund so that it could go towards the healthcare recruitment. So we have a budget of about $50,000. So approving Section A is the $50,000. If council choose to approve all of the next section, which is about 25,000, then our staff report would have to come back with some funding recommendations, unless council had some recommendations in terms of where you would like that funding to come from.
Okay. So any other questions or comments with regards to the other 4 on the list?
If I could just make one other question.
Yeah,
There's
go ahead, Joe.
another comment just on those ones. So see where Hospice Wellington and Big Brothers Big Sisters, they're both looking for fee waivers. It might be a little bit of a slippery slope to move into fee waivers for organizations that are not running events. We tend to, in the past, have approved fee waivers to the Arthur Lions Club because they run a Christmas craft show and the funds go back into the community, or the Mount Forest Lions Club because they're doing their drive-through chicken dinners and stuff like that. These 2 requests are specifically to waive fees for meetings that they have at the sports complex. In the case of Hospice Wellington, it's a weekly meeting, so it's 52 weeks of the year. For Big Brothers Big Sisters, it's a monthly meeting. Now, I know we do waive fees for meetings for, say, the Lions Club again, but it's, in my mind, it's a different scenario than Big Brothers Big Sisters and Hospice Wellington. So I'm fine if council want to approve the fee waivers for them. I just think it's an area that's a little different.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Darren?
Thank you, Councilor Burke. For the Big Brothers Big Sisters, this is a new ask for them. Up until recently, they had space available in the building they're in. Township has reallocated that space to the archives building, so they've lost that meeting space. So this would be a new cost for the Big Brothers Sisters.
Okay.
So just some background on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
So that's a good reason as to why we might want to approve it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna say I have a hard time exceeding the budget at almost $25,000 on our grants and waivers. Understanding that these groups and all groups do a great job. We have a lot of community groups and organizations that are not on the list as well. So I'm gonna sort of stand by the fact that I'd like to see a staff report on the schools. And leave it at that. I think some of these other groups, there are other meeting spaces that maybe could be used within the community. I just, as Dale has mentioned, I think it's a slippery slope when we start to accommodate groups for meeting space. And I'm not sure that that was the intent when the grants and waivers policy was put into place. So having said that, I guess we sort of need to come up with some direction for staff. I'm getting consensus for the schools. Is there a consensus to support all 6? So I think Councillor McCabe, you're prepared to support all 6?
Yes.
Councillor Hearn?
I think I could agree with that as well. $24,786 for that amount of money. This is probably one of the areas that we can get the most bang for a buck out of is putting back into our community groups. So I think I could support that.
Okay, so I'm going to call the vote then. All those in favor with regards to the recommendation for the grants and waivers, that would include the original list and the additional 6. All those in favor? So that opposed? So that's carried. So I
Thank you.
guess, thank you very much to the staff members that put that report together. And the groups that have put in their requests, those letters will go out shortly, letting them know and acknowledging the fact that they have been successful, Dale.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor Burke. So the ones in the first list, they will go out immediately.
Okay.
The ones in the second part of the list, they will not go out until we come back to council with a staff report around not only the Arthur Public School and the Kenilworth Public School, but around all 6 of them and where funding could come from them.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you.
5A. Okay. So the next item that was pulled out for discussion is the operations report. Report Ops 2023-015 being a report on the 2023 sewage allocations. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report Ops 2013-013 being a report on the 2013 sewage allocations, and further that council directs staff to work towards entering a sewage allocation agreement with the following developers in Wellington North: Ved Homes, extension of Adelaide Street, west of Conestoga Street, 35 units. Dan Prospero and Innes Prospero, 178 Main Street South, 14 units. John Welton Custom Home Building Limited, Sunvale Homes Subdivision, northwest corner of Cork and Martin Street, 100 units. And Farhan Mahood, 425 to 427 King Street East, 18 units. And further that council award the necessary units to allow the building department to have 20 units of sewage allocation for distribution during 2023 for infill lots within Arthur. And further that council award the necessary units to allow the building department to have 20 units of sewage allocation during the 2023 for infill lots within Mount Forest. And further that council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the bylaw to enter into the agreements. And further that council directs staff to revise the fees and charges bylaw associated with sewage allocation applications to include a nominal fee of $250 per site application for 2024. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Counselor McCabe, seconded by Counselor Rankin. So I'll open the floor for discussion, comments, questions. Counselor McCabe?
Thank you. And through you, Counselor Burke, I have one quick question with the Mount Forest allotments for Dan and Enos Prospero at 78 Main Street South there. And I guess this is more for you. Where would these 14 units go?
Through your acting Mayor Burke. This proposed building will have main floor commercial, and then it'll be a 3-story building, and the second and third floor will be residential units.
Right, thank you. And if
Thank
I
you, Darren. Yes,
can
go ahead.
continue. And then with regards to no, sorry, I don't think I need you anymore, Darren. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. And then with regards to Arthur, I am excited for Cachet's future plans for the North Arthur development. And I know they have partnered with us on Preston Street and the rehabilitation of Preston Street sewer and water mains. And they've worked with staff and they've worked with, I think everyone's probably talked to Marcus a couple of times and they're great to work with. But these 20 allotments, I think are better. I think we have to leave them for staff and for the building department. We need this kind of a buffer for infill lots. And then once we get further down the road with Cachet and the other developers in Arthur, I think we need to have a level playing field for everyone to pull from the allotments that are left over. I think all the developers, including Cachet and staff, have to work together to grow so that we can grow. And I think that's what I would approve this as leaving the 20 with staff.
Okay, thank you very much, Counselor McCabe. Any other questions or comments with regards to Counselor Rankin?
Thank you. I just like to say that I agree with Counselor McCabe on deferring the 20 units for a later time and to give some of the other developments a chance for the allocations as well.
Thank you. Okay, so I would also echo those sentiments. I think that in 2022, when we went through this process, we made some exceptions. And I think this year we should hold the course. We know that there's a lot of development coming to our area. And I think that there needs to be flexibility given to staff to be able to service those infill lots. So having said that, I will call the vote for the recommendation on the floor. All those in favor? Did you have
No,
another
no,
question,
I'm
Steve?
voting.
Okay,
Sorry.
sorry.
Sorry,
Okay,
sorry.
so all those in favor of accepting the recommendation that's on the floor, Penny. So the 35 units to Ved Homes, the 14 units to Prosperos, the 100 units to Sunvale Homes, and the 18 units to Farhan Mahood at the east end of King Street. So it's based on the recommendation that's in the package. Okay, so I'll just call that vote again here. All those in favor of the recommendation that's on the floor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. So next is 6D. And the recommendation is, okay, so this is a letter from the Honorable Carolyn Mulrooney, Minister of Transportation, correspondence dated April 3rd, 2023, regarding the 2023-2024 Connecting Links program. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the correspondence dated April 23rd, 2023 from Carolyn Mulrooney, Minister of Transportation, regarding the 2023-2024 Connecting Links programs. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor McCabe, second by Councillor Hearn. Any questions or comments with regards to that? Counselor McCabe?
Yes, and through you, Counselor Burke, I just wanted to give a shout out to this. I think it's a great investment for the final leg of Highway 6 or Smith Street in Arthur. And I know we have put this application through before, and it's nice to see it come through this year. And hopefully we can get working on that right away. And I appreciate Minister Mulrooney's funding for this project as well.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments with regard to that? Okay, seeing none, I would just like to say that I guess meeting with Minister Mulrooney down at Roma was a good thing. I think when you can bend any of the minister's ears down there, it pays off, and I look forward to this project moving forward, as we know that it's well needed. So, having said that, I'll call the did I do that already? Did I call the motion already? Okay, all right. Okay, so that ends the items for discussion.
Sorry, did we vote on that?
Did we vote on that?
I think
Did
we
we
got
vote
it
on that?
recommended. Did
Did we
we?
vote? Oh, okay.
Okay, oh, okay.
I just call the vote again. so we're
Okay,
sure.
so we'll call that vote because we're not sure if we voted on that. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I didn't think we did. so-
Yeah, I'm not sure that we did either. So all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So next on the agenda is there any notice of motion this evening?
I have none.
Okay. Not seeing any, we'll move to community group meeting, program reports.
Had a Roma meeting on Friday. It's the fourth meeting. There'll be some more correspondence coming from Roma in the next little while from that meeting. And then this Thursday, I will be going down to the University of Guelph for an announcement from OMAFRA at the University of Guelph with regards to their vet college. So look forward to that announcement as well later on this week.
That's great.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Steve. Any other community group meetings? Councillor Rankin.
I would just like to say regarding the Lions Blacksmith Shop, it was very nice. We had our first meeting since pre-COVID, so it was really nice to get going again, and hopefully we'll be moving forward with repairs that we can open to the public.
That's great. Thank you. Councillor Hearn.
I don't have a whole lot to report. I do have a GRCA meeting coming up next week, and Dale, I'm going to try to attend the event at the Mount Forest Sports Complex tomorrow afternoon. I was going to go in the morning, but I have a surprise meeting, so it'll be the afternoon.
Thank you. And I'd just like to say that I received an announcement this afternoon with regards to the new chief of staff at the Wellington or North Wellington Healthcare Alliance. So Dr. Christine Peterkin has assumed that position. So I wish her all of the best in her new role, and would also like to thank Dr. Christopher Rowley, who has held that position for the last 6 years. Thank you for your leadership and support through that position. And would also just like to mention that next week we have a Mount Forest Aquatics Committee meeting, April the 25th. And it will be held at the Mount Forest Fire Hall because the Mount Forest Patriots are playing that evening at the sports complex. So we want to be able to hear the discussion. And I have nothing further on that. Anything further for anyone else with regards to?
Just on that, I should congratulate the Mount Forest Patriots as well, moving on to through the playoffs, defeating the Hanover Barons last Friday night. great crowd. I've been able to go to a couple games and see a full house, and it's great support for the community and junior C hockey in Ontario. So
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So next we have the cultural moment. Councillor Rankin, would you share that this evening? I have it here if you'd like a hard copy.
Okay, just a moment.
That'd be great, Kathy. Thank you.
Out of here, thanks. Yes. Cultural moment for April 17th celebrates Helen Fair. On her shoulders is an exhibit on display at the Mount Forest Museum and Archives that showcases some of the unique women in the history of Mount Forest. Today's culture moment celebrates Helen Olton Fair, 1909 to 1993. Helen Fair came to Mount Forest in 1952 with a definite plan. She had spent her first 10 years of marriage in New York City with her husband, Harold Fair, a well-known newspaper correspondent at Reuters. Harold had been the first Canadian journalist sent overseas in September of 1939 to report on the war. Originally from Arthur, Ontario, Harold created a plan to move back to his home in Wellington North and purchase and edit a local newspaper. In 1954, Arthur Wright's daughter, Grace, was selling the Mount Forest Confederate after her father's death. Harold and Helen Fair bought the Confederate, and from the start, Helen shared equally in the management and editing of the paper. That same year, Harold Fair died. Helen Fair was now the sole editor of her own newspaper. Described as a very quiet and almost shy woman, Helen Fair could have called it quits. Instead, she became a hardworking, intelligent editor who oversaw a very successful and respected weekly paper until 1971. Through many printing and mechanical advances and through the tumultuous decade of the 60s, Helen ran the newspaper with humility and humor, according to former employees. Sheila McEachern ran the linotype press at the paper in 1965 when she took a break one day to see a movie in Harriston before returning for her later shift. The sad movie had reduced Sheila to tears, and her editor noticed that she had been crying. Fearing that Sheila was very distraught over some grave personal matter, Helen called her into her office for comfort and reassurance. Sheila set her boss straight, but she realized then that working for a sensitive female boss like Helen Fair was going to be a wonderful new experience. Helen Fair is buried beside Harold in Arthur's Greenfield Cemetery. Submitted by all the volunteers at the Mount Forest Museum and Archives who mounted the exhibit on her shoulders, Unique Women in the History of Mount Forest.
Thank you, Councillor Rankin. I know I put you on the spot there, but I think I've done enough talking for tonight. That brings us to our confirming bylaw. And the recommendation is that the bylaw that bylaw number 029-23 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North at its regular meeting held on April 17th, 2023 be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favor? That's carried, and we're on to adjournment, and the recommendation is that the regular council meeting of April 17th, 2023 be adjourned at 7:57 p.m. All those in favor? Oh, I need a mover and seconder. Sorry, I need a mover and seconder before we do that.
I can move
So
it.
thank you, Steve, and seconded by Councillor Hearn. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy, for that. We are adjourned.